What's up, Highland?
What's up, Highland?
What's up, Julie?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Yes, this is our wonderful guest today. But before we get into that, we do want to remind our viewers we are. We're growing in viewership. Please follow us on Facebook, on YouTube. We are booked out into September. Recently, we've had a couple people inquire about sponsorship, so we are picking up momentum. We're pretty excited, and
we got our first review.
How about we didn't even ask for it?
So thank you, Mr. Larry.
Thank you so much for your review. Jeff, why don't you go ahead and just read the first two words of the review?
So first review just came in, I think yesterday, or at least that's the first I'd seen it. Like, oh, cool, let's check it out first. And Mr. Larry says, it sucks. Seems to be a waste of my time.
Well, you can't please everyone.
So that's where we're at.
Larry.
So
Larry, stay with us. We got some good stuff coming.
Maybe give us one more try. I mean, obviously, if you hear us now, you're still listening. So
and maybe he wants to come on and we can interview him about why we suck. Yeah. So we want to be better. So tell us why we suck.
Yeah, if you are going to say we suck, at least give us some advice on how to clean this thing up a little bit.
We're always trying to be better at our trade. So
if anybody has a positive review, we'll take it.
We take all reviews. Good, we don't discriminate. But thank you so much for the review.
Yeah, thanks,
It shows
Larry.
that you did put time in it. You spent a little bit of effort to do that.
Yeah, sorry we wasted your time.
Jeff, you suck.
Apparently so.
All right.
I wonder who was on with me whenever he decided to leave that. Maybe it was you and Ryan.
Wonder what episode it was.
Might not
and
even
did he
be me.
watch more than one?
Yeah. So
okay.
I doubt it.
Maybe he's a business owner and he's going to get value out of today's guest.
Yeah. Julie's got a lot of good stuff for business owners.
So if you're a business owner and you're watching today, listen up here because we've already chatted a little bit. She's got some good info. So
Julie Gooden.
Yes.
So why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us exactly who you are, what you do.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Julie Gooden. I'm a CPA, been a CPA for over 20 years. I started out in tax accounting, then moved into corporate accounting and spent most of my career there. I've also taught at McKendree University for 4 years, which was very valuable. I enjoyed that experience. And so now I'm starting my own business in accounting to bring all that I have learned over the years to business owners.
Awesome. So when you say business owners, is there a parameter of business owners, like who you'll work with? Do you do online stuff? Is it you only work locally here in Highland, or is there a radius to who you serve?
That's what I love about accounting, especially nowadays, is there aren't any parameters. Every business needs accounting. Every business has to account for their transactions. They can benefit from financial reports. They have business decisions to make that data can be valuable. So it doesn't matter the size of the business. And because of today's technology, it doesn't even matter where you're located. I actually have worked remotely in the past, full time, and been able to help businesses that were all across the country. So that's what I love about today's technology and the accounting industry.
What is the number one thing? So you got a business owner out here. They're probably going, maybe, what can she do for me? What's the number one challenge that you find often that you're going to be able to help solve? Kind of a common theme with business owners that maybe they're either struggling with or don't know how to offload it.
Mm-hmm. There's a couple things that I see as recurring themes. The first one is they just don't have the time. As a business owner, as you guys know, you're busy. You're busy running your business and you're doing the best you can. So you're putting a lot of time into that. And there just isn't always time to sit down at your computer and open up QuickBooks and book your transactions and run your reports. So one, not having enough time. So that's where I come in. You can offload it to me. You continue to run your business and I get to know your business so that I can help you in any way I can. But most importantly, I can take that off of your plate and get it done efficiently and timely.
So with that being said, like for me, even if I have the time, this would be the last project I would ever choose to work on.
Most people that I talk to say, why in the world would you want to be an accountant, right?
Yeah.
Nobody likes to do it.
I see you guys. I love taxes shirt. No, you don't have that on.
Yeah, it's so if it's because maybe you have the time, but that's the other recurring theme I see is you either don't understand it because you don't have the background in that. Your background is in what you do in your business, or you just don't want to do it. You don't want to take the time. Absolutely. I see you raising your hand. Yeah, it's not for everybody, but there's people out there like me that love it. This is my passion, and it's my passion to help business owners in their businesses and bring what I've learned over the years to them.
So if you've got a business owner, you're managing their books essentially throughout the year. In comes tax time. You've basically already got all the background that you need to not only file their taxes, but give them proper guidance, more of an advisory relationship, which I think, I'm in the financial planning industry, we're seeing less and less of the advisory relationship out there, and people miss out. So you're providing this global service that essentially kind of complements this advisory piece at the end of decisions you can make during the year because you've collected the past 12 months of information from a business owner.
Absolutely, that's correct, because I want to work all year round. What I don't want to do is just come in at the end and do the tax return, because I don't know your business. I don't know that what I'm putting on that paper is good information. Is that really what you should be doing? Were there tax strategies we missed because I don't know the business? And so I'm coming in, like you said, throughout the year, really getting to know you and your business and your struggles and your goals. And tax planning and strategy is part of it, but there's just so much more. Like you said, that advisory role, I worked in mergers and acquisitions and growth, and there's ways you can use your financial data and the ways you can analyze your data to help you grow your business.
So when you work with a business, and so it's a 12-month relationship with the owner. So how often do you meet with a business owner on a monthly basis, or what do you need from a business owner to make this whole thing work the way that you want it to?
I want to meet at least once a month to go over the previous month's information. Ideally, we'll meet more often, but it just depends on the arrangement that I work out with the business owner and what they need. Because the other great thing about my services is it can be as little or as much as the business owner needs. If a client just needs me to go in and just review what they've put in, they want to continue having a piece of that responsibility, but they just need a monthly review, then I can do that. Or I can handle it all, but that requires more meetings and more conversations throughout the month, and more questions that I would have. So it really depends on the service, on how much we're meeting. But how it would work is if I was taking all that responsibility, it depends on their system that they're using. I work a lot with QuickBooks. Well, QuickBooks, it links to the bank accounts, it links to the credit cards. And so as these transactions are flooding into the system, a lot of the communication is, well, what is this transaction? What was it for? So that I can properly record it. Because the way you record your transactions, it tells the story. I used to tell my students at McKendree that one of the things I loved about journal entries and the debits and the credits of accounting is it's a story that you shouldn't even have to look to even know the details of what it was for. Just how you're recording it alone, the accounts you're putting it in, tells what the transaction was. That's a little deep. It doesn't always have to be that deep, but that's what I love about it. And so that communication throughout the month is, am I recording the transactions correctly? Is there any analysis that we need to do? What are your decisions that you need to make this month? What goals are you trying to achieve this month? So that we can work together. And like Joe, like you said, in that advisory role.
And I think even, what you're talking about is putting this plan together, but I don't know. I just drew a blank for some reason.
It's okay. I got a question.
Great, Jeff. I cut you off anyway.
No. So really one of the advantages of having, because a lot of business owners that I know just send all their stuff in at the end of the year. Mm-hmm. There is no strategy going into that. And by the time you're sending it in, it's probably too late.
It's too late.
How many adjustments can you really make? And educated decisions can you really make versus if you're working with you every month, you get to make an educated decision and get true advice on your business versus just general
Just putting the numbers on a piece of paper.
Putting the numbers on a piece and
Yeah.
signing it and
sending it
send
off.
and
yeah,
hope.
and saying, here IRS, here's my payment.
Yeah.
So absolutely, because when you're at the 11th hour, you're right, it's probably too late to really pivot. But if you're looking at your financial data throughout the year, at least on a monthly basis, then if sales are dropping or expenses are rising, or maybe you saw an increase in food costs, for a restaurant or something like that, then there's ways during the year that we can identify that and pivot then to better structure you to have a successful year. But if you're sitting at the 11th hour, and then it's too late. And because it's not always tax planning, right? We all have to do a tax return as individuals. So even as individuals, we're always trying to tax plan to get that tax liability as low as possible. But it isn't always about the tax laws and strategy. There are just other business decisions throughout the year.
And some, a lot of business owners are business owners and they're good at what they do. Mm-hmm. And the tax piece, if you really need the proper person in place. Again, I've done what I've done for almost 17 years, and you can see throughout the years there's gaps in some people's planning because maybe they do want to try to do it themselves or save an expense, and you can see that there's a gap there in some of these opportunities. So
would you say that a lot of people make the mistake when you say accountant that just means tax preparer?
Absolutely.
Opposed to accounting as an actual position, especially if you look at large companies, they have accountants that are telling them all the data and the information of what, I'm assuming that's what you're trying to say is that's the story you're getting of the business. You're not just a tax preparer.
Exactly.
You're the accountant of the business. So all the transactions matter, not just for tax purposes, but for the cash flow of the business.
Yep.
The profitability, all those things, not
expenses.
Just how much am I going to save on taxes.
Too much money on.
There's a lot more that an accountant does than just write your taxes.
Yes, absolutely. So when I tell people that that I've never met, that I'm a CPA, and if I'm telling them this between January and April of the year, they say, "Oh, you must be really busy right now." And I say, no, I'm busy all year round. Mm-hmm. I don't have that January through April, what we call busy season. I haven't had that in 17 years. And it's because the more corporate accounting or business accounting, it happens all year round. It's not just about that end of the year tax return. So it's a common misunderstanding that accountant is automatically doing taxes. There are accountants that are doing auditing. There's accountants like me that are in corporate accounting. And the accounting industry right now is like most industries, is struggling with new graduates. We're going to have a shortage. And one of the things I just put out to my followers is look at all the ways an accountant can go in their career. There are so many ways. I have a student that's working for the FBI. The CIA hires accountants.
What's his name? Or hers.
So there's just so many things you can do in accounting. So tax is not all of it. And so as business owners, like you said, the focus can't just always be on tax planning and strategy. There is cash flow strategy. There's profitability strategy. There's financing strategy.
What is your opinion on, I think a buzzword in the business world is write-off. And, people hear that word and they're like, you can just do whatever you can and you write it off. And, in reality, you've got to spend that money. So even though it's a write-off, you're still spending money. So the whole concept of write-off, I think, gets lost sometimes, and it's like, you don't always
This would be
need...
good for the non-business owner to know.
Sure.
As they're always asking for write-offs from business owners.
Let me go buy something that I don't need to write it off. Well, you just spent the money and got rid of some, free cash in doing that.
Yeah. So write-off, meaning a deduction on your tax return, is going to reduce your tax liability. So it's going to reduce the amount you pay to the government. But that, you make a great point, but you spent that cash. Did you need that cash for something else? And was it, you do a cost benefit analysis on that. Was it really worth the benefit of that deduction to go spend all that cash? Because you're not getting a 1-for-1 write-off where you can just necessarily, it depends on what it is, but it doesn't always equate to the dollar you spent is the dollar you didn't have to send to the government.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
so that is important to note, and it goes along with what you said about cash flow strategy. And especially, some smaller businesses aren't cash rich. They need all the cash they can. And so that's where looking into how do we grow revenue? How do we grow sales? How do we manage expenses? Are you spending money on something as an expense that you're not profiting for? It's not benefiting your business. But if all you're focused on is the deductions on your tax return, you're missing that. Yeah, you're going to be broke and you're missing that.
So the good thing is you're going to ask those questions where how many people have subscriptions that they pay every month, and then if they wait till the final hour to check with you and then you ask, it's like, well, you've already spent this for 12 months. We can't go back and knock that one off the expense list so those are types of questions you'll ask, like, hey, what is this subscription? Do you need it? Are you using it? Can we cancel that one?
Yes, absolutely. Is there software that you thought you needed, but is not benefiting your business? And there's other things like that we do see on an income statement in the expenses that maybe it's even necessary, but there's just a more or less expensive way to do it. Maybe there's something else out there that needs to be explored, and I can help with that investigation of what can we do to manage your expenses better.
I feel like you got a really good offering. Your value prop's solid. I think if anyone's out there and they're listening to this, hopefully you get contacted, because on the planning side, there's times where people come in and maybe it's time for tax season and they do have they need to reduce taxes somehow, but maybe they haven't put money away to put it in some kind of retirement vehicle. And now it's sitting here like, well, you owe the tax, but you didn't plan properly during the year to get the offset from making some of those contributions. So I'd imagine you can help coach through that. Like, look, you're going to need to make a contribution into this, during tax season, but you got to plan during the year for that too.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we've been focusing on the business accounting, but as business owners, our business affects our individual financial planning as well. And that's where I can help, is provide that guidance and work with their financial planner to say, where do we need to be? What do we need to be doing throughout the year so that they are set up for success personally as well.
Yep.
So lots of good stuff, but I couldn't help but notice you're wearing a shirt that's got a big elephant on it.
Oh,
Yes.
with glasses.
Yes,
So
it's a nerdy elephant.
what's the deal with the elephant? Does that mean something?
Tell what's up, Highland.
Yeah.
So Highland, the business name is BSE Accounting and Consulting, and BSE is not my initials. Obviously, my name is Julie Gooden, doesn't even have those letters in it. BSE stands for Big Sexy Elephant.
You don't say. That is a purple cow if I've ever seen
Yeah.
one.
So the big sexy elephant,
The Big Sexy
accounting
Elephant.
and consulting.
Yes. So Big Sexy Elephant actually came from an inside joke with my husband, Jason. Jason and I are so different in size. Jason is 6'4", big guy. I'm 5 foot.
He's a big sexy elephant.
He is a very big sexy elephant.
Hey, all right.
And I love my
You're
BSE.
welcome.
And so we look ridiculous together. We walk down the street. I have to look so far up to talk to him. And there is a sitcom that we just love. It's called King of Queens.
Love it.
With Kevin James, Leah
love
Remini.
it.
Love it. We still watch it all the time on
Doug and
reruns.
Carrie. Arthur.
Absolutely. That's a good one. And there is an episode in season 5 called Window Pane. And it is where new neighbors are moving in, and Carrie, Leah Remini's character, doesn't feel like they made a good impression on these new neighbors. And so a fight ensues, and it's your typical spousal fight, And during the fight, he calls her an elephant for her good memory. She calls him an elephant for fatness. And then later in the episode, they invite these new neighbors over to show what a loving couple, and that they don't fight all the time, even though they do. And she jokingly but lovingly calls Kevin James he's my big sexy elephant. And my husband, I don't know, I just laugh. I mean, I just bend over laughing every time I see this, even though I've seen it so many times. And we started calling him the big sexy elephant, but it was just an inside joke. So when he would send me flowers, it would say, "Love you, your BSE," and BSE just became our little initials for our inside joke. And so when I was creating this business, I wanted something in the name that made me laugh, made me smile, made me feel good, made others feel good. And so the big sexy elephant just took off.
That's great.
That might be the coolest name or reason behind a name.
And what a great show that it came from. I mean, I am
the whole thing about it. I love it.
Season
Like
1 to the end, over and over. I watch it every night. So
I love how
great.
it has literally nothing to do with accounting.
I agree. But that's
with
Purple Cow.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
we've talked about the Purple Cow, and that's what makes you different. And
yeah, it'd be, once people find out that that's you, instead of saying Julie Good, it's like, oh yeah, the big sexy elephant. They can relate to that, opposed to trying.
Well, I'm not gonna say BSE. It's going to be big sexy elephant accounting.
That is fine.
I know this BSE. I didn't know that was his name. However, if you're listening, big sexy elephant, you got some work to do on your float this year in the parade.
Oh yes, there's a
the
competition.
Christmas parade. Me and
we've got
me and the big sexy elephant had a little contest last year, and
all right.
BSE was quite a big talker. He really thought he had something.
He really thought he had something until he didn't get in the top 3.
I feel like he's legend. We're referencing him as BSE. Like this is great.
And it's so funny now because, thanks to the publicity of the town and the big sexy elephant story getting out, he's actually getting called that in town, and it's hilarious because I think it embarrasses him, I think, a little bit, but it's so fun. And he knows it's great for us, it's great for the business, and he's a real trooper.
Doesn't seem like one that would get embarrassed too easy, does he?
That's 6'4", big sexy elephant.
Well, take it very lightly, Jason. I don't mean it intentionally.
Jason, please don't go on and give us a bad review for what we're doing right now, okay?
No, he is so supportive, and the BSE, the big sexy elephant story, it is fun, and that's just how I wanted my business to be. I want it to be lighthearted and fun, because accounting, let's face it, can be kind of boring. It's it's numbers, it's data. It's not the most exciting profession, and so
let's make accounting exciting again.
Let's make it exciting again. Let's make it fun. Let's put a smile on people's faces.
No, I mean, I think it's great. Just it gives that energy of who somebody's going to get to work with. Like, see the excitement that you bring, and
Sure.
I'm probably going to laugh every time I at least have to talk to my accountant. Which most people, how many people laugh when they get to talk to their accountant? I bet zero, except for the ones that get to talk to you.
I think most people dread going to see their accountant. And that's the other thing that
I dread that last call from him. I know that.
When I say how much you owe.
Here we go.
And the other thing that
just means they made money, right?
I love that, Jeff. You're exactly right.
Yeah, owing tax to the government is not necessarily a bad thing. That
You're
means your
profitable.
business is doing well. Yes,
property
absolutely.
taxes, but we won't get into
Stop.
that.
We're not.
I just figured I'd touch it.
I seen you going down the rabbit hole yesterday. I wanted to tell you, don't jump. Delete your post.
Well, the admins deleted it because I was about ready to start defending myself. But anyway, so we're done. We don't need to go there.
I said,
okay,
pulling you back.
Sure, thank you.
The other thing that I believe sets BSE. Now, see, I want to say big sexy elephant.
Say it.
Say it. That's your name of business. Everybody needs to know.
So what I want to be able to go to the business. So what in my experience, you have to go to see your accountant, which means you're having to take time out of your day away from your business, away from your employees, to go sit in your accountant's office. That's not my goal. My goal is to come to you and be a part of your business. That I'm there, I'm seeing it in action, I'm seeing you in action, I'm witnessing your struggles, and also giving you back a little bit of that time in the day to where if we're meeting and there's something that needs to be handled, you can go handle it and you're not miles away.
I love that part of your service. That's great.
It is fantastic.
Yeah.
Man, it sounds, I hope everybody's a little more educated on what an accountant can actually do for you as a business owner.
Well, you and I have, we've started our businesses, and I think we both did spreadsheets at the beginning, and when you're cutting your teeth and trying to be lean, those are very tedious ways of keeping track of things. And
I am thankful that accountant is the first person that I probably ever hired a long, long time ago
Yeah.
to get that bookwork.
I had to grow
off
there.
of my,
The tight ass
out of
in
my
me,
hands.
but I got there. I'm good. I've turned it all over. So
It's hard because you do want to save money, especially when you're just starting out. You don't have a lot of cash, and the cash that you are investing is going into the business to increase your revenue. And so it's not a good fit for everyone. But there usually comes a time.
Well,
We all start out in spreadsheets, and it's doable. It works, but it's in the end, you're spending more time than you really need to. And
You're probably going to find something that we're missing to save money, to offset your
to
costs.
offset the cost. Absolutely. And
it's deductible.
It's a write-off.
it is a
Your
write-off.
services are a write-off.
It is a write-off.
See, we keep circling around here.
Absolutely. Yeah, because if you then have an advisor who is then looking at your expenses and talking with you about them, there probably is somewhere that if you're concerned about my fees, there is probably some way to make it work. And in the end, you're going to be happy you did. Like you said, Jeff, you're so glad you made that call. And it just for the peace of mind to know that it's being done right and you're capturing everything and that you've got that advisor to lean on. And when it does come time for the tax return, you've got someone to help you strategize.
Quick question before we wrap up. You do payroll.
I do payroll as well.
Okay.
Yes. So it requires a software. So there's different softwares you can use. If you're already using QuickBooks, QuickBooks has QuickBooks Payroll, but there are other payroll providers like Paylocity, Gusto, that is the platform for the payroll. But then I'm going in there and taking the hours from your employees' timesheets. I'm running the payroll, calculating the wages and deductions, but then I'm also handling the quarterly tax returns, the W-2s at the end of the year, everything that needs to happen with payroll.
Frank, if you're listening, it's probably your person.
He's on a cruise.
Love to meet you, Frank.
So we won't go
You'll
any
have
further
to
than that.
catch him in Alaska or Coco Cay or
We'll find him and we'll put you two in touch.
we will.
Sounds great.
We will.
And you did have a nice offer that you wanted to make. If anybody is interested in Julie's services with the big sexy elephant, and you mentioned the What's Up Highland podcast, she's going to give you 10% off your first month.
Yeah,
Yep.
10% off.
Free
first month
consultation too.
And a
So
and a free
consultation.
consultation, yes.
Yep.
I always do a free consultation. It lasts about an hour, and that's just to get to know you as an individual, but also then most importantly get to know the business and where you're struggling. So that's always free. But then if you decide that you want to work with me, which I'm hoping you do, then 10% off your first month.
all right, big sexy elephant on we can Google. You got a website, Facebook page, all the goodens.
Yes. Accountingwithbse.com.
Did you get that?
I did.
All the goodens.
I like it.
Well, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much
Yes.
for being on. That was very insightful, and I think you're going to be great.
Best of luck.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Yep.